What's up guys, it's your favorite Kiwi coach. Welcome back to another video. In this particular video, we're bringing back the series where we compare one PGA Tour player's swing versus the other. In this particular video, we're going to be comparing Jon Rahm's golf swing versus Phil Mickelson's golf swing. We're going to be taking a look at the differences and kind of see which swing do I think is more optimal. So without further ado, let's go do this thing. So before we get into the analysis, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Kiwi Golf Japan. If you want to come support our channel because YouTube does not pay the bills, well, make sure to check out the membership site. You can get access to over 130 videos of golf instruction. We have categories anywhere from beginner golf videos where we talk about, let's say, grip or setup and all that good stuff, all the way to our webinars, which are a little bit more advanced, where we go over really exactly how to implement new swing motions and get those before and after results by yourselves that you guys see on YouTube. So if you guys are interested in the membership site, make sure to click the link down below. If you guys sign up, it really does help support us and continue to make these videos. So that out of the way, let's get into this analysis. So to start off this analysis, I want to talk about how these two players definitely have different golf games, which means Phil Mickelson's more so of a short game specialist who relies heavily on his short game to score. And then when his ball striking is on, or he's hitting it well, that's really when he starts to dominate, and again, that's why he's a world-class player. Now, versus a Jon Rahm would be completely opposite when it comes to ball striking. Jon Rahm would be one of the most consistent ball strikers on the PGA Tour year in and year out. And then versus Phil Mickelson, you could argue that Jon Rahm's short game is definitely not at the same level. However, he is a PGA Tour player and a major winner at that, so let's say that his short game is quite good as well. Keeping those in mind, let's start looking at Jon Rahm's golf swing first and start talking about some of the things that I personally like in his golf swing. Okay, so the first thing that I personally like in his golf swing is going to be this lead wrist flexion move, or this bowing move. However, before everyone out there gets excited and thinks that they should all also flex and bow their wrists, let me explain why I like this for Jon Rahm in particular. One of the first places to start looking at for the reason why I like this for Jon Rahm is going to be his face angle at the top of the swing. So if you see this line that I just drew, it's kind of angled off like this. And with driver, this is actually a very neutral and square face angle at the top. However, he's bowing his lead wrist, which typically gets most players a little bit more with a shut face angle at the top. So why is it that Jon Rahm is still bowing his wrist but has a neutral face angle at the top? And it has to do this concept with grip. So if we have a neutral to slightly weak grip at setup, and then we bow our wrist, most likely actually, you're probably gonna have a very neutral face angle at the top. Versus maybe someone like Dustin Johnson or Brooks Koepka, who has a very strong grip at setup, and then they bow their wrist. They're gonna have a very shut face angle at the top. Now for Jon Rahm, if you were not bow his wrist, most likely his face angle would be quite open at the top, and he'd have to do some major compensations coming down to get that face angle square to a spot to where he could control starting line and curvature. Now for you guys out there, more so for a take-home point for you, the audience out there, I think you should follow these parameters first before you decide whether or not to bow your wrist. So first things first, if you do have a weak or slightly neutral grip, most likely bowing your wrist will probably not be the end of the world because you'll have a pretty neutral face angle. However, if you do have a strong grip and then bowing your lead wrist, for most of you out there, you're probably not going to want to do that because again, you're going to get a really shut face angle. Now with a really shut face angle, if you don't have the club speed to support that, you're probably going to start ending up hitting the golf ball really low with low spin. Now maybe with your wedges, you might see an increase in distance, but once you start working up the bag to like your 5-iron or your hybrids, if you don't have that club head speed to support it, you're going to start seeing the ball come out really, really low. And again, you're not going to be able to hold the greens. So it's not really effective for someone like that. So to give you a parameter to think about, if you're not swinging your 7-iron at least 38 meters per second, you're probably not going to be a guy or a girl that wants to get their face angle very shut at the top. Hence, most likely you're probably not going to want to bow your wrists. So I hope these parameters helped you out. Let's start getting into the next thing that I'm really liking about Jon Rahm's golf swing. So I'm sure you heard on YouTube, if any golf instructor out there has talked about Jon Rahm, they talk about the shallowing of the golf swing and how he's so shallow and he shallows the club so well. However, I think a lot of you guys out there, and as well as those golf instructors who are making those videos, don't really understand the concept of shallowing. So a lot of you guys out there really think that shallowing is this flattening of the club shaft versus a lowering of the club shaft. And I'm in the camp of saying that shallowing is more so a lowering motion as opposed to a flattening motion. And let me kind of explain. And John Rahm, I believe, actually personally does this really, really well. So to see the visual for this lowering motion, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line on the club shaft like such. Now, as I go to the next position here, you're going to see that John Rahm is not flattening the club shaft at all. If anything, he's slightly steepening the club shaft, but for the most part, the club shaft is just kind of falling parallel from that top of swing position to the position we have here. And as we continue to go down the swing, we're kind of seeing more of the same. If anything, now he's actually starting to steepen the club shaft, because again, John Rahm likes to hit a fade, so he steepens the club shaft a little bit earlier than most. But we're not seeing at all that club shaft flatten. And the main reason why we don't have to see it flatten with a guy like a John Rahm is because he's more so in a laid off position, or more so my preference of position at the top of the swing. See, again, when you're laid off or you're in my preference, you don't have to flatten the club shaft to get the club shaft into a good range at position 5. You just need to lower the club shaft. Versus someone who's crossed at the top, like a Phil Mickelson, which you'll see here in a sec, you actually have to now flatten the club shaft first. Then you have to stop that flattening motion, because if you continue to do it, you're going to get too flat. And then once you stop that flattening motion, then you have to let it fall. And then from there, then you have to let it steepen and move out towards the golf ball. Which means you have to be incredibly patient in transition to allow yourself enough time to flatten, and then allow yourself to kind of lower here, and then steepen the club shaft out towards the ball. If you have a very quick rotation move with your lower body, with your pelvis, you're probably going to really struggle if you're getting across the line at the top of the swing. That's kind of just my personal preference on why I typically don't like to teach cross the line at the top. I think it's just incredibly difficult to time. Okay, moving into the last point that I want to talk about with John Rahm, and one of the things I really like about his golf swing is going to be right around this position 6. Now with driver, what we're seeing here is we're seeing that the face angle is pretty much just kind of toe up or at 90 degrees. Which actually for a driver is slightly on the close side versus most players. Typically with driver, you're going to see that most people are right around toe up with this, versus let's say maybe an iron, people are going to be slightly more toe down, so slightly more shut of a face angle versus the driver. But the main point here is his face angle is quite square, which if you're not, which I see a lot of you guys out there doing this, if your face angle is actually open in this position, it's going to be incredibly difficult to square the face. You're going to have to rely a lot on the supination move, and you're going to have to apply a lot of torque to get that to actually work out. When you're applying a lot of torque down at the golf ball, it's really difficult to time, right? Because you can over torque it just a little bit and you hook the golf ball way off the line. You can under torque it, and then you can also slice the golf ball way off line. So I think it's really important to really nail this position 6 club face position if you want to have really good starting line and curvature control. So it's something I really like about John Rahm's golf swing. Okay, so to sum up those points about John Rahm's golf swing, first and foremost, if you're going to try to bow your lead wrist, make sure you hit the parameters that I talked about earlier in this video. Next thing, if you are interested in what shallowing really means, personally, I think it's a lowering motion of the club shaft, not a flattening motion of the club shaft. And then from there, if you want to control your starting line and curvature, make sure your face angle is in a really good spot at position 6, just like John Rahm, and you'll have a great chance of doing all of that. However, the video is not done. We have to go hop over to Phil Mickelson now, take a look at his golf swing, do the same process, and then we'll meet up after that and talk about some of the take-home points for you guys. All right, YouTube, unfortunately, that is all the video I'm going to show to you guys. I hope you did enjoy it. If you guys want to watch the whole video, you got to make sure to sign up for a membership site. And if you do sign up for a membership site, it really does support us and helps us continue to make these videos on YouTube. Plus, you're going to get access to over 130 videos on the membership site, which we update every single month. So more videos come onto the membership site every single month. So I think it's a great value for what we're giving you. And then also from there, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video.